Imagine not a single gun, not even a knife, just a stick, a stone, and the fear of death every second. And yet humans survived, not just survived. They spread across the entire planet and became Earth's top predator. How on earth is that possible when they had no fangs, no claws, no armor? Today, we're breaking down how our ancestors got by for 2 million years without firearms and why it actually worked. Let's start with the biggest misconception. People think no weapons means humans were weak and defenseless. That's nonsense. Humans had weapons. They just didn't shoot. A sharpened stick, hardened over fire, became a spear that could pierce a mammoth's hide just as well as a modern blade. Tie a stone to that stick, and you had an axe capable of splitting a predator's skull in one blow. But here's the thing. The weapon wasn't the main point. The brain was. A wolf kills with fangs. A lion kills with claws. A human kills with planning. Our ancestors didn't chase a mammoth head-on. That's suicide. They drove herds toward cliffs or into narrow ravines where the animal got stuck and couldn't turn around. One successful drive, and the tribe ate for weeks. That's not brute force. That's tactics. The same kind that still wins wars, businesses, and survival fights today. Now, about fire. This is what really changed the game. Fire wasn't just for warmth. It was a weapon of mass deterrence. Not a single predator, not even a saber-toothed tiger would approach fire. It's hardwired into animal instinct at the DNA level. A human holding a burning branch became untouchable. Entire tribes slept soundly knowing, as long as the fire burns, nothing will touch them. And here's a question rarely asked. What was actually more dangerous for early humans? Predators or their own tribe members? The harsh answer, usually, other people. Hunger, territory, women, revenge. These were the causes of most deaths in prehistoric societies. Archaeologists find skulls with crushed temporal bones, not from a lion's fangs, but from another human's club. And here, protection wasn't physical anymore, it was social. The tribe was humanity's real weapon. Alone, you're lunch for a hyena. In a group of 30 men armed with spears, you're an army nobody wants to mess with. That's exactly why being cast out of the tribe was worse than death. A lone individual in the wild survived, on average, a few weeks, tops. Now, the interesting part, how did people protect themselves at night when you can't see a thing and predators hunt exactly in the dark? The answer, the perimeter. As far back as 100,000 years ago, people built primitive fences of thorny branches around their camps. Sounds simple, but it worked. A predator stepping on a thorn backs off. Plus, there was a watch. 1 or 2 people stayed awake, monitoring the fire and the sounds. This was history's first security system, and it's the foundation of everything we do today. From fences around houses to security cameras, and now, here's what really shocks most people. Humans are the only animal on the planet that domesticated their own bodyguards. Wolves didn't become dogs by accident. Ancient humans fed the boldest, most loyal wolves. Those wolves guarded the camp at night, barked at danger, and gradually became history's first early warning system on 4 legs. A dog could smell a predator a kilometer away before a human could even see it. This wasn't friendship for friendship's sake. It was cold, calculated survival strategy. Put it all together: spear, fire, strategy, tribe, perimeter, dog. And you don't get a random pile of discoveries. You get an entire survival system built over generations through trial and deadly error. Each piece covered the weak spot of the one before it. But here's the strangest part. All these same principles still apply today. The spear just turned into other tools, the tribe became a team or a family, and the perimeter became a door lock. Humans haven't really changed at their core. They still survive not through strength, but through systems. Take the spear, for example. It seemed like the peak of hunting weapon evolution until around 30,000 years ago when humans invented the spear thrower, the atlatl. A simple lever stick with a hook on the end turned a spear throw from an arm motion into a strike powered by the full kinetic energy of the forearm, nearly doubling speed and range. Now a hunter could hit a bison or a deer from a distance where the animal had no idea it was even under attack. Then came the bow. The oldest known arrowheads date back roughly 64,000 years in South Africa. And this weapon changed the entire logic of hunting. A bow didn't require closing in on prey, didn't require traps or risky drives, it only required patience and aim. That's exactly why the bow outlived the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, and remained in warfare right up until the arrival of firearms. But no weapon would have saved humans without one invention people usually underestimate. Fire wasn't just for scaring off predators. Food cooked over fire is far easier for the body to digest than raw food, meaning it demands less energy for digestion. Some anthropologists believe this shift to heat-processed food freed up the resources the body needed to grow a bigger brain, the very organ that came up with spear throwers, traps, and hunting strategies. It's a chicken and egg story. Fire fed the brain, and the brain kept finding new ways to use fire. Clothing is another chapter. Bear skin doesn't survive an ice age. Genetic analysis of lice that live exclusively on clothing, not on the human body, showed researchers that clothing as an item separate from the body appeared roughly 170,000 years ago. That's not the exact date someone stitched the first hide together, but it shows that long before humans spread out of Africa into the cold regions of Europe and Asia, they already knew how to protect themselves from the climate artificially, not just biologically. So how did a species with no fur, no fangs, no claws managed to reach Siberia, the Arctic, islands separated from the mainland by dozens of kilometers of open water? The answer is simple and still stunning: boats. The settlement of Australia, which happened at least 65,000 years ago, was impossible without crossing sea straits even during periods of minimal ocean levels. That means before humans had even domesticated the dog, they were already building primitive rafts or dugout canoes and risking their lives on open water just to find new land. It's worth mentioning how humans dealt with prey that physically outweighed them by dozens of times. A mammoth weighs up to 6 tons. One human with a spear can't do much against that. But marks on mammoth bones found at mass kill sites like Kostenki in Russia show stone tool marks on dozens of individuals at once, pointing not to hunting in the usual sense, but to systematic use of natural traps. Ravines, marshy ground, cliffs where animals were driven by a coordinated group. Here again, the core point holds. What won wasn't strength, it was coordination. And coordination is impossible without communication. Language is probably the most underrated survival weapon in human history. The ability to agree on a hunting plan in advance, warn of a predator with a single word instead of a scream of terror, pass knowledge about poisonous plants to the next generation. This gave Homo sapiens a decisive edge over other human species, including Neanderthals, who were physically stronger and better adapted to cold. Neanderthals are believed to have gone extinct around 40,000 years ago, and one leading hypothesis is that sapiens outcompeted them not with muscle, but with social networks, wider, more flexible, capable of exchanging resources and information over long distances. Speaking of exchange, archaeologists find seashells hundreds of kilometers from the nearest coast, flint from quarries weeks of travel away. That means trade and social connections between different human groups existed tens of thousands of years ago. Not isolated cave clans, but a network of contacts where needed resources, ideas, and even genes passed from hand to hand long before writing was ever invented. Put it all together: projectile weapons, cooked food, clothing, boats, language, and exchange, and a clear picture emerges. Humans didn't survive despite their weakness. They survived because they kept turning weakness into a problem, and the problem into a solution, over and over, across hundreds of thousands of years. And whenever someone claims humans are a fluke of nature, it's worth remembering. This species, without armor or fangs, made it through ice ages, supervolcano eruptions, and the extinction of its closest competitors, armed with nothing but a stick, fire, and the ability to think several steps ahead. There's a question rarely asked in nature documentaries. How did a soft, slow, thin-skinned primate become the deadliest hunter on the planet without ever being the fastest, the strongest, or the toughest animal in the room? The answer lies in something almost invisible: sweat. Humans have up to 5 million sweat glands spread across nearly hairless skin, letting the body dump heat far more efficiently than any four-legged predator covered in fur. A cheetah can outrun a human over 100 meters without breaking a sweat, literally because it can't sweat the way we do. It has to stop and pant to cool down. Humans don't. This gave rise to one of the oldest and strangest hunting techniques ever documented: persistence hunting. A small group would simply keep an animal moving under the midday sun for hours, sometimes most of a day, never letting it rest long enough to cool off until the prey collapsed from heat stroke and exhaustion. No spear throw required at the start, just endurance. Modern examples of this technique have been documented among the San people of the Kalahari Desert, giving researchers direct insight into a strategy anthropologists believe stretches back well over 1,000,000 years. Endurance running required more than sweat glands, though. It needed feet. The human foot developed a rigid arch and a large heel, turning it into a natural spring that stores and releases energy with every stride, something no other primate possesses in the same form. Fossil footprints from Laetoli in Tanzania, dated to about 3.6 million years ago, already show a foot built for walking upright over long distances rather than swinging through trees, evidence that bipedalism came long before big brains or sophisticated tools. Big brains still mattered enormously, of course, and the story of how humans fed them is tied directly to another underrated skill: tracking. Reading a bent blade of grass, a disturbed pebble, a faint print in dry soil, and reconstructing not just what animal passed, but how long ago, how fast it was moving, and whether it was wounded or healthy. This is cognitively demanding work, closer to detective reasoning than instinct. Some researchers studying hunter-gatherer societies argue that tracking may have been one of the original drivers behind abstract human thought, since it requires building a mental model of an animal's behavior from fragments of evidence, then testing and revising that model as new signs appear. Shelter deserves its place in this system too. Long before log cabins or brick walls, humans were already engineering structures for warmth and protection. At the site of Mezherych in Ukraine, archaeologists uncovered dwellings built from the bones of dozens of mammoths, arranged deliberately to form a stable dome-shaped frame, likely covered with hides dating back roughly 15,000 years. Building something that large out of skeletal remains meant planning, cooperation, and an understanding of structural weight distribution that predates written engineering by many thousands of years. None of this would matter without the ability to store knowledge across generations. And long before writing, that job fell to oral tradition and, remarkably, to art. Cave paintings such as those found in Chauvet Cave in France, dated to roughly 36,000 years ago, weren't idle decoration. Many depict animal behavior in striking anatomical detail, movement, herd structure, even hunting scenes, suggesting these images functioned as a form of teaching, a way to pass down survival knowledge visually to those who couldn't yet read a single word, simply because writing didn't exist yet. Put every piece next to the others already covered: sweat, feet built for distance, tracking as reasoning, engineered shelter, and visual memory passed down through art. And the picture sharpens even further. Humans were never built to win a fair fight against nature. They were built to outthink it, outlast it, and out-organize it, one small advantage stacked on another, until an animal with no claws worth mentioning became the only species capable of walking into every corner of the planet and calling it home.